the last princess of Eldamar, the Emerald Kingdom. Long before Tauriel wandered the wilds alone, she was born beneath the silver boughs of Eldamar, the Emerald Kingdom. Hidden within the ancient Elderwood, Eldamar was among the oldest elven realms remaining in the mortal world. Its towers and halls were shaped from colossal living trees, while crystal rivers flowed beneath bridges woven from roots and flowering vines. For countless generations, its people had guarded the great forests and preserved the balance between civilization and the wild. Tauriel was the only child of King Arundel and Queen Lysara Sajwing. Their bloodline reached back to the first elves who entered the mortal world, and its heirs possessed a rare connection to nature. Some could awaken forests, speak with ancient beasts, or restore life to poisoned lands. From birth, Tauriel displayed a gift greater than any seen in generations. Flowers opened at the sound of her laughter. Birds followed her through the royal gardens, and even wild animals showed her no fear. By her 50th year, still young by elven reckoning, her abilities rivaled those of Eldamar's most accomplished druids. Her parents loved her deeply, but they feared the immense power growing within her. Power is not measured by what it can destroy, her father often warned, but by what it chooses to preserve. To teach her discipline, Arundel gave Tauriel a pair of archer's braces bearing the crest of House Sajwing. They would be the last gift she ever received from him. Chapter 1. The Fall of Eldamar. For centuries, Eldamar had remained untouched by war. To the outside world, it was little more than a legend. But legends have a way of attracting darkness. One autumn evening, eager to prove herself worthy of her inheritance, Tauriel entered the Moon Grove alone. It was a sacred sanctuary, where generations of Sajwing rulers had communed with the ancient spirits of the forest. Beneath the silver light of the moon, she attempted a ritual far beyond her experience. The air trembled, ancient roots burst from the ground, and trees twisted beneath the force of a forgotten command. For a fleeting moment, Tauriel touched a depth of power she could neither understand nor control. The surge lasted only seconds. When silence returned to the grove, Tauriel believed no lasting harm had been done. She did not know that her magic had echoed far beyond Eldamar. In a lifeless country forgotten by the world, an ancient necromancer felt its awakening. For centuries, he had searched for a source of primal power capable of fulfilling his darkest ambitions. Now he knew where to find it. Shortly after midnight, a cold and unnatural fog descended upon Eldamar. Birds abandoned their nests. Animals fled into the wilderness, and the forest itself recoiled from the evil approaching its borders. Then the dead came. Thousands of undead warriors marched beneath banners of shadow and bone. Corrupted beasts slaughtered Eldamar's sentries, while monstrous creatures stitched together by necromancy crashed against the kingdom's defenses. King Erendil led his warriors from the outer walls. Queen Lysara gathered the druids and mages within the heart of the city. Arrows darkened the sky. Ancient trance rose from the earth, and the full fury of the Elderwood fell upon the invaders. Yet for every enemy destroyed, another emerged from the darkness. As the dead breached the city, the royal family finally understood the truth. The enemy had not come to conquer Eldamar. He had come for Tauriel. Her uncontrolled ritual had revealed the power within her blood, and the necromancer would not stop until that power belonged to him. Erendil and Lysara faced an impossible choice: save their kingdom or save their daughter. Without hesitation, they chose. Together, they enacted an ancient ritual forbidden for generations, drawing upon the Sagewing bloodline, the spirits of Eldamar, and the life force of the kingdom itself. They created a spell not intended to destroy an enemy, but to preserve a future. As the palace gates fell, Tauriel felt her father's final embrace. She saw the tears upon her mother's face. Then she heard their final command: live. Emerald light consumed the kingdom. The earth split open. Colossal roots rose like walls, and the Elderwood awakened in a fury. Though the necromancer survived, he could not withstand the ritual's full power. He was dragged beneath the ruins and bound within a prison woven from the living essence of the forest. He had been defeated, but not destroyed. When Tauriel awoke days later, she was alone in a distant wilderness. Eldamar was gone. Her parents, her people, and the kingdom she had once been destined to rule had vanished from the world. Only the Sagewing braces remained upon her wrists, the last remnants of the life she had lost. From that day onward, Tauriel carried two burdens: the grief of being Eldamar's last surviving daughter, and the guilt of believing its destruction had been her fault. Chapter 2: The Years of Rage. Tauriel soon discovered that something else had been taken from her. The connection to nature that had once flowed through her effortlessly had fallen silent flowers, no longer bloomed at her touch. The voices of the trees became distant whispers, and the power that had once answered her call refused to awaken. The ritual that saved her had demanded a terrible price: to conceal Tauriel from further pursuit. Her parents had sealed most of her magical power inside the same prison that held the necromancer. Her gift had become part of the lock that bound him beneath Eldamar. Only fragments remained. She could still sense the emotions of the forest and hear occasional whispers upon the wind. Animals remained calm in her presence, and ancient trees seemed to watch over her. Yet compared with what she had once possessed, these abilities were little more than echoes. Unable to depend upon magic, Tauriel turned to the bow, the sword, and the skills of the hunter. What little power remained became a guide rather than a weapon, sharpening her instincts and strengthening her bond with the wilderness. The princess, who might have become a great druid queen, instead became a ranger. For years, Tauriel searched the ruins and surrounding forests for survivors. She followed rumors, investigated distant sightings, and explored forgotten sanctuaries. She found no one. At last, she was forced to accept that she was truly alone. Grief hardened into guilt, and guilt became rage. Tauriel abandoned all hope of rebuilding her former life and devoted herself to hunting the darkness that had destroyed it. For nearly 40 years, she pursued every whisper of necromancy and every report of unnatural creatures. Her early hunts were reckless. She entered battles with little regard for her own survival, believing that if she could not avenge Eldamar, perhaps she did not deserve to have escaped it. But Tauriel endured. She learned to follow monsters across impossible terrain, recognize the hidden signs of dark sorcery, and survive in places where others would perish. Undead crypts were found emptied overnight. Corrupted beasts fell with single arrows between their eyes. Bandits and servants of darkness vanished from roads bordering the wilderness. Stories spread of a mysterious red-haired elf who appeared whenever evil threatened the innocent and disappeared before gratitude could be offered. Few knew her name. They called her the spirit of the forest. Yet no victory brought Tauriel peace. None of the creatures she destroyed were the enemy she truly sought. And no amount of blood could restore what she had lost. Vengeance had given her a reason to survive. Now, it had become her prison. Chapter 3. The Spirit of the Forest. Fearing that rage would consume what remained of her, Tauriel abandoned the roads of civilization and disappeared into the wildest reaches of the world. She crossed mist-covered mountains, forgotten valleys, and forests untouched by mortal hands. She sought no destination and carried no purpose beyond survival. At first, solitude was merely an escape. In time, it became something more. Far from cities and kingdoms, Tauriel began to hear the world again. She listened to rivers passing through ancient woods and learned the language of the wind moving through the canopy. She watched predator and prey exist within the same delicate balance. Nature held no hatred. It sought no vengeance. It simply endured. In that truth, Tauriel found the first measure of peace she had known since Eldamar's fall. She remembered her father's lessons about restraint and her mother's belief that even the deepest wounds could heal when given time. For the first time, Tauriel permitted herself to mourn instead of rage. The forest became both her teacher and her companion. Ancient spirits appeared in her dreams. Stags grazed beside her without fear, and owls watched over her from the branches above. Even the oldest trees seemed to recognize the blood of Eldamar within her. As the years passed, Tauriel's skills became instinctive. Her bow became an extension of her body. She could cross dense woodland without disturbing a leaf, follow tracks invisible to ordinary eyes, and survive for months with nothing beyond what nature provided. The wilderness was no longer merely her refuge. It was her home. Though royal blood flowed within her veins, Tauriel abandoned all desire to rule Eldamar's throne, belonged to a world that no longer existed. The forests, however, still required guardians. She became a hunter, not for glory or vengeance, but out of duty. Wherever unnatural creatures threatened the balance of life, Tauriel answered. Wherever dark magic poisoned the land, she sought it out and destroyed it. The anger that had once burned uncontrollably within her became something colder, sharper, and infinitely more dangerous. Purpose. The weakening seal. Deep beneath the ruins of Eldamar, the necromancer remained imprisoned. The sacrifice of Arundel and Lysera had purchased decades of peace, but no enchantment could endure forever. With every passing year, the ancient roots' weakened cracks spread through the forgotten chambers, and whispers of corruption once more began to seep into the world. Tauriel could feel them. Her lost magic remained bound within the prison, joining her fate to that of the enemy who had destroyed her home. If the seal were broken, the necromancer would rise again. But Tauriel was no longer the reckless princess who had entered the Moon Grove. She no longer followed every shadow or allowed hatred to guide her hand. She watched. She waited. She followed each trace of forbidden magic, knowing that every trail would eventually lead back to Eldamar. And when that path finally opened, she would follow it home. When Tauriel faces the darkness again, she will not stand before it as a grieving princess or as a survivor broken by guilt. She will stand as a guardian of the wild, as the heir of the Sagewind bloodline, as the last daughter of Eldamar. The darkness stole her family, her kingdom, and the future that had once awaited her. Now the spirit of the forest is coming to reclaim them. And this time, she will not bring vengeance. She will bring justice.